Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Black Parents Aging. This is a special treat because we got Nicola on today. We've been looking for her. There
I
she is.
know. I know, y'all. I love y'all. I'm this season. I couldn't do it. It
She's
was
gonna
a
be
lot.
back in season five. I think this is season four. She's gonna be back in season five.
Yes, I will be fully back, fully present, fully ready to roll in season five. But I do want to shout out Olivia for holding it down for season
Thank
four.
you. Thank you. Thank you. But we have a good one today. I think we're ending on a high note. I don't know. A cautionary tale note. Cautionary tale note. So, Nicola, we gonna let you start because you here.
Well, okay. So Liv and I were talking about like what we wanted to talk about. And one of the shows that has become pretty popular is talking about celebrities and things we have seen in the news when it comes to estate planning. I think a lot of us sometimes think that, I don't need to do this because I don't have a ton of money. But the reality is, even people with a ton of money don't always do this. And then that's how they make the news. So, with that said, who would you like to talk about? Who's the first one we want to?
Um, so I let's start on a high note. I have one high note and you have one high note. I
Okay.
just wanted to know, and this has been pretty recent. So this is Quincy Jones. So this is pretty recent, but what I love, we haven't heard any fighting yet. Now it's early, so there is still time for fighting, but there hasn't been any fighting, and he left such a substantial estate and had already identified how it was going to be split. He has 7 children. And so there is such a opportunity for there to be infighting and between 7 heirs, and we haven't heard anything about that yet. And so I wanted to just mention this because yes, it is a substantial estate, but people will fight about the last dishes in the cabinet. And if you do your planning right, it goes off. There's peace. Everybody knows what they're going to get. They know what to expect. And we don't have to fight it out in the court like some of the other people we're going to talk about. So I just wanted to shout Quincy Jones out because let's keep this peace going, family. Like, I hope to not hear about anything in the news with his family, but it has been peace so far. So I'm shouting him out from the beginning. Let's start on a high note. Who you got?
So Quincy, the rumor mill says Quincy left 500 million.
500 million.
So each kid is getting like between 70 and 80,000. And that's not even like counting his
No,
work.
70 and 80 million.
Million. I'm sorry, million.
Million,
Yes, it's an
million.
M. And that's not like royalties or anything that's money that's gonna come from
No.
after the music. So
They
shout-
send back. They're like, just run me my coins. We all happy here. We good.
so the person I want to shout out, the rumor mill says his was only 50 million. So he ain't
Only,
that other
only,
zero.
only 50.
But that is America's dad, Bob Saget. He had found a new love for comedy, had gone back to, actually working and in comedy and died suddenly.
Yeah.
Like the news has never been really clear about what happened, but it seemed like there was no drama in terms of he just fell in his hotel room, hit his head, and passed away. And then the court sealed his autopsy, so we'll never really know what happened there. But we have not heard any fighting after that either because he did do a trust. And so shout out to you
Yes.
because here's the reality. He wasn't old. He was still working and he died suddenly. And that could be any of us.
Yes.
But he had already taken the time to put stuff in place because, again, none of us know when we're going to leave this earth. He had already put it in place and was just like, if anything ever happened to me, I want it to be good. So he had a wife and he had 3 kids. Now, I don't know if the kids were from this wife. Sometimes
Yeah.
celebrities have several wives and several iterations of blended
Yes.
families.
At different points in their life.
But the wife I know got the house. Everybody saw that. She got the house because she sold it probably like a year after his death. And then the girls, he had three girls, they got their shares. We don't know what they got. And then a bunch of a bunch of charities that he supported in life, they got too. So it was all just done very quietly, distributed, no drama. Isn't
And
that
that's what we
wonderful?
love. That's what we want. But shout out to him for because what we always think is we're not old enough yet. Like we still got time. And the truth is, we don't know how much time we have. And then the other thing I love is that he gave money to charity.
Yeah.
Um, that he continued to support the things that were important to him, organizations, even after death. And when you plan, you're able to do those things.
And there's one organization, and I can't remember what it is, but he had supported them a lot during his life because they were shedding light on an autoimmune disease that his sister had died from. So he had almost unofficially become the spokesperson for this organization. So I have no doubt that given that he gave them money in life, that he made sure that they were going to be okay after he passed too.
No, I love that because when you don't plan, you can't make you can't make those type of plans. And so if you had been, if you gave every year to a particular organization, you didn't plan, that's just cut off. Like they just not receiving because then you have to think, okay, well, maybe my kids in honor of me, they will donate. And I don't think that that's a good bet.
I
That's
like
not a
trusting
good
other
bet.
people to.
To keep it going. That's just not a good bet. And so, no, I think I love that. I love that he did that and he was able to continue to support the things that were really important to him even after death.
Mhm.
Okay, so those are our high notes. You got any more? That was my one high.
Oh, I got another high.
Okay,
So my boy Michael Jackson, MJ,
okay.
I am a
Not
huge fan.
not his heart.
R.I.P. Pour one out for the homie. Here is why I'm giving him a shout out. Because
Okay.
the reality is Michael Jackson's estate has been in the news since 2009. Like, no question. Mom has challenged some stuff. The IRS has tried to dip their toe in it, like all these things. But here's why I want to give him a shout out.
Okay.
Michael Jackson was real intentional about who he left as the trustees and who were
Hmm.
going to be over his things. Now, think about it, y'all. He got 50 million sisters and brothers. He ain't picked not one of them. Michael has lived around the world, seen some things, worked with some of the top of everything, but he really was intentional about who he said, okay, who's going to take care of my stuff when I die. Now, again, these internet streets is what I got to rely on. But they said he left a will with the trust within the will and then named the two people who would administer his estate. Now, mom, she got a sub trust for while she was alive. She challenged some of the decisions that those trustees made, but she was
Hmm.
not successful because Michael intentionally made it very broad for these people to be able to maneuver and navigate. So, according to the internet, when he died, the IRS was saying his estate was larger than it was. But, and again, he left lawyers as his trustees, probably intentional. But they were able to negotiate that down. They were able to deal with all the creditors, make sure Catherine got her money, and the three kids will forever be okay. So, what I last saw was they took what was probably about a 2 point, no, I think they said $5.2 million estate when he died, plus the creditors. It's worth 2 billion now
That is insane. That's
because
insane.
he made all these deals on his behalf using his image, his likeness, his music. Michael Jackson, This Is Us, they did that. The musical, Michael Jackson. So all that
Mm.
money is all coming into the estate for his three children. So these were some brilliant people who
Yes.
handled the business of death for Michael Jackson. So I got to
Well,
shout
they handled it well.
well because we've seen some people. So that's why I think we sometimes maybe gloss over and don't put enough energy into really thinking about the people that we want in charge of our things, making sure that we're picking people that have the savviness to
Yes.
really execute what it is that we want. Because sometimes I get clients in, they're like, well, we're going to leave the oldest in
The
charge.
oldest, always the oldest.
Why the oldest? The oldest has been burdened with being in charge since their birthright. Like they sick of being in
They're
charge.
done.
And listeners, if you don't know, me and Olivia are both the oldest.
Yes. Yes. But and this is the conversation that we continuously have with our clients, because we need to erase all of who is supposed to do certain things and look at skill sets.
Yeah.
Like, who has the capability, has the skills, who has the desire to do
Yeah.
those things. Because when you choose right, you get a Michael Jackson situation. When
Yeah.
you choose the oldest, just because they're the oldest, not because they're the best person for the job, you don't know what you're going to get. And you want, the whole point you're doing planning is for a peaceful outcome, the best outcome that you could have. And you don't get that when you just arbitrarily pick people because you think they're going to be upset if you don't pick them.
And the thing is, we got to remember this is work. This is not just like we naming somebody. Your
This
name,
isn't an honor. This is
right?
not an honor.
Right. This is not oh yes, oldest, here you go, hold up
Yes.
trophy type situation. This might be a situation where she is having to make investment decisions. She's having to hold funds for younger generations. She's having to do the taxes, the accounting. She's held liable to those other generations if she mess any of this up. So with all of that in mind, it's like, okay, who can handle the weight of
Yes.
that responsibility?
And who's
Shout
willing.
out to Michael because he picked the people who
Okay,
can.
we're gonna shout Michael out. But it's the state is still like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
ongoing,
Yes. And because, I mean, again, it's $2 billion. They ain't never gonna be able to spend it.
which is,
So,
yeah,
yeah, the
yeah,
internet streets
yeah.
was like these kids will benefit from this estate.
So, okay, so those are all very positive notes. I'm gonna move on to one because the issues started before death. And so they've just continued on. And that is John Amos. He was on Good Times, he was on In Roots, and he died in 2024. Before he died, however, there already were issues. And I think oftentimes when we talk about planning, y'all think about, oh, what happens after I die? You don't think about the shenanigans that may take place while I'm still here. And so the shenanigans started while he was still alive. And so there were claims of elder abuse. Between his children, from one sibling to another, while he was still here. His daughter accused his son of taking financial advantage of him, accused him of elder abuse, and then John Amos had to come out and say, no, like that's not the case. There were people that had to investigate to make sure that he wasn't being taken advantage of. These are the things that happen even before death. And we see this all the time.
Yeah.
Where it is true, where there is literal actual elder abuse happening. And usually it's financial abuse. And so part of planning with what Nicola was saying about picking the right person, but after death, absolutely. But during incapacity too. When I'm incapacitated and I can't make decisions for myself and I am wholly dependent on someone, who is the person that I can trust that is going to really look out for my best interests? That is a really important person that you need to pick.
And most people, again, stick to the oldest or stick to the one that, might live closer. But I'm like, she's the one that filed for bankruptcy 3 times. Like, you got to also think about, again, their skill sets and their ability, because this is a person that's going to be able to write checks on your behalf, sell real estate if you give them the authority to do so. even change beneficiaries on policies.
Yeah.
So you want to really make sure this is a person that has completely your best interest at heart and is not going to abuse this type of authority. But they are meant to step in your shoes and do all the things you would have done for yourself. That's
Yes.
pretty powerful.
That is a lot of power. And we have seen it. And I know Nicola probably doesn't get shocked anymore. I still get shocked. I still get shocked at kids and grandkids that take advantage of being in that position for their own benefit,
Mhm.
where the person they're caring for, their money becomes our money and they just spend for themselves that has nothing to do with the best interest of that individual. And so I thought that was interesting. That was like foreshadowing of what was to come because there is already a situation where his children are trying to gain access and authority while he's still alive and needs help managing and taking care of his financial needs. Did you have somebody else?
Well, I think while we're talking about people still alive, that's a good segue into Wendy Williams.
Yes, I have her and Britney Spears. Go ahead.
Okay, so
Go
Wendy
ahead.
Williams, Britney Spears, because I actually was talking to a client recently and somehow we got on conservatorship, and I was like Wendy Williams. He was like, I found like you just broke it down. What is happening? Because he was like, I never really understood. So Wendy Williams was losing capacity, is losing capacity, or has lost capacity,
Yes,
however you deem it. And her financial institution had to step in. They were just like, this don't pass the smell test. And so they went to court and said, okay, she needs a conservator. The issue is her son was like, but wait, I'm right here. Why wasn't I even selected, considered? Because I think at the time she was with him. Um,
but I also know that there was the ex-husband was in there not acting in her best.
yeah.
Yes,
And
yes,
so why this matters is it didn't have to be all that. It
yeah,
did not have to come to this. And this is what I want people to really take away from this episode. Wendy could have, when she had capacity, name exactly who she wanted. And so if she wanted her son to be the person to manage her finances and step in her shoes, she could have done so. And this is what Olivia and I do when it comes to estate planning. Yes, it's great to talk about your stuff and where it's going to go, who's going to get what after you die. But the reality is, most of us are going to deal with incapacity before we pass away. That's
absolutely.
just the statistics. And so, if we don't all want to end up like Wendy Williams or
Yes,
even Britney Spears,
yes,
this is something we have to designate now. And that's one of those things that gets often overlooked because we just don't think that any of that is going to ever happen to us. But the rise in cancers and dementia and all these other illnesses,
definitely dementia.
very, very much likely that we're going to all need to name somebody as a conservator.
Now, for Britney Spears,
That's
correct me if I'm wrong, she was able to get hers dismissed.
Yes. So with Britney's, I think if y'all remember back as a few years ago, but Britney had a whole public meltdown. She shaved her head. She was doing all the things.
She was.
There was no real question that she needed help.
Hmm.
She was a cry for help, walking around here looking like a cry for help. And so her father stepped in and was like, well, yeah, whether he should have or not, that's not
Right.
the point of this.
We're gonna side eye him, but
Her
keep going.
father was the one that was appointed as her conservator. And so he was over her finances. Here is where Britney's is a little different from most people. Because most people, dementia, you're not going to recover from. Cognitive decline, very rarely do you recover from
Right.
that. So you need somebody to permanently stay over your stuff. Brittany, though, she bounced back. Like hers
She
was
has
definitely
bounced back.
right. It was temporary.
Yes.
And there's no such thing as, oh, I just want a temporary guardian.
Yeah.
Because you go into the same court that agreed that you cannot handle your finances and say, okay, now please change you court, please change your mind. I know all these medical witnesses and all these people testified that I couldn't handle my money, but now I need you court to change your mind. And that's really hard to do,
Yeah.
which is why you had the whole Free Britney campaign and all this other stuff, because it was very clear to us outsiders that Brittany looked like she was fine now.
Yeah.
So it's like, why he over her money? She looked like she good. But we didn't know if Brittany was gonna get better. And
And
so
in some instances you don't. And I think oftentimes that happens with mental health, right?
yeah,
You may be having a episode, but if you get on your medication, you're taking your medication regularly, you're following the doctor's orders, then you are good to go as far as taking care and maintaining your own life.
which is why when it comes to guardianships and conservatorships in situations of mental health, the courts are really hesitant
Yeah.
because especially with the guardianship, you are taking away some of their constitutional rights. You are saying, nope, they can't do these things like vote, get married. We need somebody else to make those types of decisions for them. But again, if they take their meds and they could do it themselves, we don't want to strip them of rights that they receive from birth. And so it is very challenging. That's the word
Mhm.
I'm looking for.
Yes.
Challenging in situations of mental health when you talk about conservatorship and guardianship. But when
Yeah.
you talk about cognitive decline, incapacity, those we can plan ahead
Because
for.
they're, I
Yeah.
mean, unless it's a miracle, those are going to be permanent. You're not going to get better from those. So,
So Brittany, glad that she was able to work that out.
shout out.
Wendy probably won't work that out.
Well, no,
Wendy,
okay, so in that same vein, now Wendy's is trying to pull a Brittany. So I think she got guardianship in 22. So it hadn't been that long. They someone got guardianship of her 22. She has now hired an attorney to get that dismissed because she's now saying that she doesn't need that anymore and that she is good. And she's trying to get the guardianship terminated. Now they say that the streets say that Wendy looks is looking good, like her
I haven't
normal
seen
self.
her. Okay, I'm gonna have to go check these
And
internet
I
streets.
don't
I
know,
haven't
but
seen
that's
her.
what they saying. So, but here's the thing, because she didn't do her planning, because whoever is her guardian wasn't someone that she appointed and wanted, they also don't, I think it's a guardianship and conservatorship. I don't think they have access to her money. So her
Mm.
family has started a GoFundMe to
So let
pay.
me make sure I'm following. So the family is trying to overturn it, but since they don't have Wendy money, they got to go fundraise to
To
even
get
help her overturn it. Woo, Jesus. We can't even make this stuff up.
you cannot make this stuff up. And so I like this episode because before when we talked about this, we talked about okay, when people passed away, what happened? This all these people are still here. And these are the things that can happen when you don't have the foresight to plan. And this, I mean, we see it all play out because they're celebrities and they're famous, but this plays out in your communities every day with people who, may have lost capacity, may have mental health issues, who need somebody to step in, who haven't done planning, have to go to court and get somebody appointed. This plays out every day in real life.
And this is a large part of our practice.
Yeah.
Olivia especially goes to court on these guardianships and these conservatorships. And I am a county guardian and conservator. And so when families don't plan or they're fighting to the point where the courts can't even make a decision because there's no sane person in this equation, then that's where I am sometimes brought in and the courts say, well, you manage it. And so I'm tasked with managing somebody else's funds or managing their assets because the family can't do it.
And it's never a pleasant process. That court hearing is never pleasant. Like it is never a pleasant situation because 95% of the time it's because they haven't planned. And so here we are in court trying to figure out who's going to be the guardian and conservator. So if you can avoid that, that is something you by all means want to avoid. You got anything else? Those were my
I think those
people.
are my people. That was it for
Okay,
me.
okay. So this is our last episode of the season. We will be back in the fall with new episodes. Um, Anything you want to say before we get off, Nicola? I mean, I'm gonna give you the last word.
You're so kind. Thank you guys for hanging in there for season 4. I hope it was beneficial. I hope you learned some things. I hope this has motivated you to get your estate planning done. If you are in the state of Georgia where we are, definitely, call us,
Look
send
us
us some
up.
email, look us up, come by, so that you can get your planning done. And if you're not in Georgia, find a reputable attorney in your area that can assist you with planning. As usual, if you got ideas for the show or anything that you would love to hear us discuss on the show, please send us a message. We love getting topics from our audience, and just, whatever it is that y'all got on your mind, we'll talk about it. That's it for me.
All right, y'all. Bye. See you
Bye.
season 5 this fall.
All right, sounds good.
Bye.